Welcome to this recording of our recent MMU webinar, How the Multi-Unit Manager Puts the Customer First. Now, if you're a multi-unit manager in retail, hospitality, leisure, we can all agree that the customer experience is so important, and we play, I think, a critical role in ensuring that. And yet, of course, the multi-unit manager isn't in their restaurant, their pubs, their stores, their units all of the time. The very nature of the role is that you're not going to be there. So what can you do to create and sustain this focus on the customer experience? And that's what this webinar is about: how you can create focus, how you can put some structure around it, and how you can ensure you bring energy to the conversation. I was so delighted to be joined on this session by my colleague Andrew Kemsley from 10 Hospitality, and listen out as he and I discuss really two areas: behaviours that you can role model day in, day out, but also some of the really practical best practices that you can ensure, some of which you are doing and some of which maybe you could do more consistently, or maybe there's hopefully some fresh ideas and some fresh insight for you today. So enjoy our session. If you've got some thoughts that we haven't covered, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note back. You'll see our contact details at the end of the webinar. Enjoy.
Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lee Sheldon. I am the co-founder of Mastering Multi-Units, or MMU. And we believe very simply that everybody deserves to have a great manager. Yep. We're in the 21st century. Quite frankly, it should almost be a human right that everyone has a great manager. But we get more specific, and we're very focused on you, the multi-unit leader, the multi-site manager, whatever the job title is. Anyone who has responsibility over a number of locations, often in geographic dispersed areas, you are really vital. You're the key enabler in so many ways. And too often, quite frankly, little or no development support is given to people in that role, particularly as they transition, but equally to just get better, to hone their skills. And that's what MMU is all about, because you're too important to leave your development to chance. Now, when it came to this topic and how we put the customer at the heart of everything we do, I could think, quite frankly, of no one better than my guest today, Andrew Kemsley, to invite. I'm going to ask Andrew to introduce himself, but I just wanted to say that for me, he embodies customer service. In the hospitality versus service, he is hospitality. He makes you feel good. He makes you understand the importance of the guest. So without blowing too much smoke up the back, let me introduce you. And Andrew, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Lee, for inviting me to talk about hospitality, which I don't really need any invitation to do that for those of you out there that have met me. For those that haven't, I'm a hospitality coach, trainer and facilitator with more than 25 years in the industry. And I work as a consultant advising on brands, team engagement, customer service, and of course hospitality. So really looking forward to sharing some thoughts on this subject, because there are so many multi-unit managers out there, and it's a very difficult job. It's difficult because they've gone from being really fantastic at their job, looking after one location, and then the task is sort of like maybe quadrupled or maybe tenfold, and then they find themselves responsible for a large area and a lot of managers that are all looking for support and guidance and encouragement. And hopefully we're going to share some really powerful kind of thoughts on that hopefully you'll be able to apply immediately. Well, that's the idea. Let's maybe we should crack on and see how we get on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. And we've worked with some fantastic brands, and I know we've got some kind of returning friends with us today on the webinar. We've got people from Europe, we've got people from the US, as well as the UK. So hello to everyone that we've known, and hello to some of our new friends, some of our new attendees who we haven't had the opportunity to get to know yet. So hello, and we, again, echoing Andy's thoughts, hope we provide some real inspiration for you today. When you think about it, there are some beautiful looking stores, some beautiful leisure centers, some fantastic looking restaurants out there. How much time and effort and money is invested in making sure they look and feel great? Of course, rightly so, a lot of time and effort. Sometimes I wish as much effort was placed on the people who are going to give the service and the experience, because we all know, it doesn't matter how beautiful a location is, it is people that bring the service to life. And I suppose today is saying we can't just hope that will happen. We can't just hope we will give a great experience. And we love this quote that building a customer experience does not happen by accident. It happens by design. And I think the multi-site leader, the multi-unit manager, you have such a critical role in making sure we have intentionally thought what that experience needs to look like. What are the steps, but what do we want guests to feel? And as I say, today is about your role in not just creating that culture, but sustaining it day in, day out, week in, week out. And it won't happen without a plan, and it won't happen unless we get intentional. And this idea of being purposeful, this idea of being intentional, is the first of the key behaviors that we want to talk about today. So this idea of intentional, Andrew, can you tell us your thoughts about this?
I think all too often managers or area managers or ops directors maybe think, I've got to go and see George today. I haven't seen him for ages. And so they get in the car on the train, they travel for an hour, and then they go and see George. And my view is that if you really want to say hello, it'd probably be better to pick up the phone because it's good to talk. But I think that often not enough planning goes into a multi-unit manager's day, week, or month. And I think that with that planning, and if you're intentional, you can go and make every single visit really purposeful and meaningful. You know, they say if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And I think it's true. And I don't think that managers or area managers give enough attention to their site visits and analyzing, you know, they analyze maybe the GPs and maybe the labor costs, but in order to deliver a great guest experience or customer experience, whether you're in retail or hospitality, read the reviews online, look at the sales, look at the opportunities that you think are missed and what you would do if you were there. And I think a large part of the job is going in and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with people. And so you should be visiting people, not places. And they should know that you're coming. It shouldn't be a surprise visit, because if it's intentional, you're going there with a plan. And it's really encouraging to know that you've got someone of a senior level with great knowledge coming to visit you and spend time with you, because we promised all this development, but sometimes it's a bit hit and miss, because you might show up, they might not have time for you. But if you've planned it and you say, I'm going to get there and I'm going to turn the laptop off and you and I are going to spend some quality time together, that you can achieve so much. So I think that it's critical to have a plan. And I think you should spend time at the beginning of the month planning who you're going to see, when you're going to see them, when's the best time, and share that plan with them.
One of the things I wanted to ask, and I'd like you to maybe use the chat window and drop in some thoughts, and we can store this and share this afterwards. But what is from the analysis perspective, what is the data? What are the information sources that you're looking at in terms of understanding how the guest experience is going? So things like mystery shopper, customer feedback tools, TripAdvisor, Google reviews, these might be some of the tools that you're using, but what else are you using at your level to help analyze the experience that your customers are having? And are you doing this alone, or are your GMs doing it? Because I would argue your role is to build the business fundamentally for the mid to long term. We all know we build people, not businesses. They are the people who will build that business. So we've got to build their capability. And part of that is about transferring ownership for certain things, such as analyzing the business. So they should be looking at these key data streams. They should be looking and telling you what is good, why is it good, and what are they going to do to continue it, to replicate it? And maybe you can share best practice across different sites. Or if it's not good, what their thoughts are about why the results aren't where they need to be, and then specifically what they're going to do. And that comes to the plan part. So often the plan is only focused on what's wrong. We'll come back to opportunities in a second. But the plan is, we're going to improve our upselling, or we're going to improve our greeting. They're nice, vague, intentional statements, but they're nothing more than intentions at this point. A plan needs to have a series of steps that says this is what we're going to achieve and how we're going to achieve it. And every single step along that way must have an owner who's going to do it, and a date by which it's going to be done by. Absolutely critical. And again, please don't just focus on the negatives, poor customer feedback. You're interested in trends always. So trends where things are going right, you want to celebrate that. We'll talk more about recognition in a bit. But when things aren't going right, maybe you've had a comment about speed of service. Things happen occasionally, we make mistakes, but you're not looking for the occasional once bump in the road. You're looking for when it's happened 2 or 3 or 4 times. That's a trend that you need to be picking up on, and crucially asking the question to understand if your GMs have understood it. Have they already identified it, and have they already begun to put fixes in place to make sure these things don't happen again? So we've got to be intentional. We've got to be uncompromising. Now, uncompromising as a word might seem a little bit aggressive. We don't think it's aggressive at all. We think it's assertive. Andrew, tell us why uncompromising for you is so important.
I think you'll probably hear me say this quite a lot this afternoon, because all the things that Lee and I kind of like looked at and what we could share and sort of like share our thoughts on, every single one is important, but I think uncompromising would certainly be in the top 3. I think it crucial that everyone that works for you understands what your standards are, what your expectations are, because I think they're your values. If you're uncompromising, and you know they say if you only ever settle for the best, you very often get it. If you look at the best leaders that you've ever worked for, I think you'll find that they were uncompromising, uncompromising in the customer experience. They expect so much, and they share that. And you should never get bored of sharing those expectations and sharing that passion. They're non-negotiables. In a leadership program I run, which looks at this model: preacher, teacher, soldier, clown. The uncompromising piece is the soldier. It's all driven about standards and attention to detail, because all too often we let standards slip. And if you allow them, and if you are the most senior person, if you allow them to slip, you dilute your message, you muddy the water, it's inconsistent. So people think, oh, he didn't notice, she didn't notice, I got away with it. Because what you permit, you promote. And so when you show up, you've got to be uncompromising. That things have got to be a certain way. I think some of the success I've enjoyed in the past was being so uncompromising on standards, even to the point where many of the people that worked with me would mock me for my obsession with the detail. But I make no apology for that, because it sticks. And I think to be consistent, it's important that people know what your standards are and what you stand for.
And these standards, I always chuckle when people say to me, it's okay, we've got our brand standards manual. If only it was that easy, that just because you've got a manual, that it's written down in black and white, that they do it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, and I would always promote the importance of codifying your standards. So they've got to be written down, because if you don't have a clear definition, other people will define it for you. So if you want to be clear, we've got to have it written down. But just having it written down isn't enough. Someone once said that we tend to focus too much on what we need to do, the behaviors we need to do, and then the results we're going to get as a result. Now, they're both very important, but I think we're missing something in the middle, which is how we see it, the why part, the purpose of doing it. Jim Sullivan often uses the phrase, teach know why before know how. And I think he's absolutely right. Help people to understand the purpose and the reason why that standard exists. Quite frankly, you can create, if you choose, a culture of compliance, or you can create a culture of commitment. I hope and always urge people to go for the latter. You want to create a culture of commitment, because you know what? If people are committed, they'll deliver the standard anyway. They will comply because they know and they value the importance of doing so, not just, I better do it because I'm going to get into trouble. Andrew used the word a few moments ago, and it's kind of part of our mantra, and I'll take the lead on this one, if I may, Andrew, this consistency. MMU's mantra is the road to operational excellence is paved with discipline and consistency. Now, I know discipline and consistency are not the sexiest words in the world. People would much rather talk about new products, promotions, menu development, new business development, all of that. they're important, of course they are. But it comes to operations, I think you all know they are the hallmark of operational excellence, being great and consistent at the basics. What that really means from a discipline perspective, and I love this way of describing disciplines, doing something you don't really want to do to get something you really do want. That's getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go for a run because you want to improve your fitness. It may be pouring outside, but because you want to improve that fitness, you'll be disciplined to do it. It's having that motivation to do it. Consistency is important, but we need to show our teams that we care about them and we're fair to them. And this comes back to some work by Marcus Buckingham when he said the question that many managers need to ask for themselves is, do my people know that I'm fair to them and I need to be fair to them? And do they know that I care about them? And what are we doing in our actions and in our words to demonstrate that we do genuinely care about our employees, care about our managers? And one way we can do it is to develop them. We can develop their skill sets by coaching. We can develop their abilities to give them new knowledge, building transferable skills that will make them a better manager in the future. What are your thoughts on this one, Andrew?
Everything you've just said, I agree with. But I also think that I think it's important to be consistent in if you're consistent in your expectations, but also in your behavior. I know as a trainer or a coach that my main purpose is to give my time and attention to people. And I think that the danger in business and in success of whether you're a multi-unit manager or a business entity is consistency. That's the enemy, the inconsistency. And so you want to be encouraging people and give them your time the whole time, because if not, can you imagine a reputation where you were inconsistent or sort of like, you don't really know? I mean, if you supported a sports team, you know how frustrated you get when they don't show up. When you know what they're capable of and then they don't deliver. So when you go and visit your managers and your teams, you've got to be reliable. Reliable as in you're going to bring good vibes, good information, and attention to them. And that shows that you care, because if you show up and then you're not really there, they're like, he doesn't really care. He doesn't care about me. And people work for people. They don't work for a big organization. And the companies out there that enjoy loyalty and low employee churn, they do these things. They are consistently there for their people. Some of the clients I have, some of the business leaders are exceptional at what they do, because every time I speak to them, they talk about their people, they invest in their people. Especially through lockdown, I've seen that. And I think that if some businesses out there are struggling to find the right people, I think you need to look within. How are you treating them? How are you investing them? Are you reliable? Is it about running the business, or is it about, as you said, it's people that run a business? So invest in your people and they'll feel cared for, and they'll perform better. It's a fact. It really is.
The next behavior that we spoke about when we were planning this webinar today was this idea of being focused. And I'd like to get Andrew's view on that. But just before you share, Andrew, when you think about the word focus, everybody, what's the opposite to the word distraction? People think it's focus. Distraction, opposite, the good stuff is focus. Well, actually, the opposite of distraction is traction. Distraction has been, we're moving away from what's really important, whereas traction is about moving towards something that's really important. So I think what's absolutely critical here is that we make sure, from a customer service perspective, we consistently talk about it, that we have mechanisms in place, which we'll talk a little bit more about shortly, but how you ensure that everyone on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is focused on service. What does focus mean for you, Andrew?
I think it's following on from that consistency piece. All too often, we have every best intention of going to a site and doing what we say, but we get distracted so easily by the day job, and often we're firefighting and your phone is going and you're getting messages. But you can't stop to do other people's work, when they send you a message, you stop what your intention is. And I think that to be focused is to be completely there, is to be so present. And I mentioned it before, so like turn your phone off, put your laptop away. I'm sorry to say, all too often, an area manager, multi-unit manager will show up. They've got work to do. The laptop will be open. You are making one table in the restaurant or the store look untidy. To be there is probably not to be on the laptop. It's to actually say, I'm yours for the next 2 hours or for the next 20 minutes, whatever it is, and not to get distracted. But also be aware that it might not be a perfect time for them. So you might have to be adaptable and sort of like allow for that, because they've still got customers to serve. But they should be aware that you are going to see them and that you are making yourself available to them. And hopefully they've made an allowance to make sure that they can get the most from that. But it's so easy to be distracted.
It is. And yeah, I bet, unless you're watching this webinar on your mobile phone, I'm guessing your phone is within at least a meter, if not probably half a meter of where you are today. Yeah, mine's the same. We are tied to these things. I think it's incredibly powerful maybe to have your phone in your hand and put it in the pocket to say, as Andrew says, I'm here for you. In fact, I take a step back from that. The reason you're there is to help them. Unless you're doing an unannounced visit, and there's a place for unannounced visits, most of our visits will be announced. And in a way, you want to get to a place where the GM, the store unit manager, is thinking, right, Andrew's coming to visit me today. What can I do to best utilize his time? What do I need his help with? Maybe it's something in my action plan. Is there an employee relations issue that's popped up that I'm not quite sure? Have I got opportunities with maybe a new competitor? I want to think about how I can react to that. And I want to use Andrew's time. Think of the multi-unit manager. Think of your time. You're all external consultants going into your restaurants, your branches, and you are there for 3-4 hours. How can you make sure that that's giving real value to the manager and that they're thinking in advance what they want that value to be? So don't go to a location without there being an agenda, a clear agenda of what you want to achieve. So you are focused on what you want to do, and make sure that whereas as much as possible, that agenda is coming from the manager. And you'll have some managers who'll be very quick and easy to adapt to that, and some will take longer to adapt to them taking ownership of that. But really your role in terms of a day-to-day is you bring focus to people, you bring structure, and yes, you bring, our next slide, energy to the business. So Andrew, you for me are the living embodiment of some energy. So talk to us about energy.
I love this. Again, I think area managers can get to site and they can be, oh, what a journey, or I can't believe this, or I can't believe that. You know, you're bringing the vibes, you're bringing good energy, and we should be talking about, you know, in positive language, sort of like, and talking to everyone, and not just the one person you went to see. You know, asking the kitchen porter how they were, or the head chef, and because you know about the sales and you know about the reviews, you can say, we've got some amazing feedback, and sharing it with everyone. You know, you're the Pied Piper of positivity. And I'm not talking about being cheesy, because all too often I think it's important to be authentic. And it's about that consistency, and it's about having your standards so they kind of know who you are and what you're about. So I think, again, we refer to Jim Sullivan, you know, energy, you're either giving it or you're taking it away. And people like to be around good vibes and positivity. So we should be looking for things that are really good, whether it's amazing sales, or the store looks fantastic today, but also saying, looks fantastic, or can we just fix that? You can still correct in a positive way. And then you can remind them of it's important. You can say, that can never be like that because of that. Or better still, say, why does that need to be different? Because your teams, they do know the answers, but we're so busy telling people what to do. We should be asking questions. But I know that that's a spot that you want to cover a little bit later on, Lee, about asking the right questions.
Absolutely. I don't know if you knew when you first suggested this particular picture, Andrew, to go with this slide, but General Electric is a company, a US or global company, once run by Jack Welch, who sadly passed away last year. And Jack Welch is famous for a number of things, but one of the things he's famous for is his leadership model. And one of the first E, it was 4 E's and a P. The first E is energy. You've got to have the energy, exactly as Andrew has described. But his second E is energize. So there's no point having that energy if you don't impart that to others. I used to say infect people with it. I'm not sure infection is the right word to use at the moment, but you know what I mean? It's about getting that energy across to others. Part of it, I think, is that belief that we can achieve. Giving people and helping people to set goals that are stretching is, again, a key element, a key factor in our job. We should not set goals that are too impossible to achieve, because people will give up really quickly. They'll lose any belief, any faith that they can do it. We've all heard that cliche that goals should be out of reach, but never out of sight. You want people to stretch to get them, yes. And that's when often they do their best work, but they've got to be attainable, and you've got to be positive. You've got to be focused that it can be done, and give people encouragement when they're on the road to getting there, but they're not there yet. So you might have league tables around customer service, around promotional performance, etc. Fine, great, have those, but don't just celebrate the people at the top and silently whack the people at the bottom in private. The people in the middle, who maybe they were second or third from bottom and now fifth and sixth in the league table, give them some encouragement to know you're getting better. Well done. What you're doing is working. We just need to continue to do it. Don't give up. Keep going, because we're getting there. That's absolutely critical. And
I just want to, before we move on, I do want to add about encouragement. I think that there are a lot of managers out there that are going through hell at the moment. You know, there are staffing issues, there are challenges. Business is doing well. We're busy at the moment, but it's hard if you don't have the best people in place. And I think that when you visit, we need to be understanding of that, really understanding, and feel their pain and encourage them and say, listen, we will get through this. And, you know, when you show up, it might be that, you know, you take your jacket off, you roll your sleeves up, and you get stuck in. And we're gonna talk about participation and involvement shortly, because that's another really important element. But I think encouragement is so important. Because we have to get through this, and I think it is a bit of a staffing crisis at the moment. I spoke to a manager recently. She was almost in tears that she hadn't really had a break in 6 months because it just been relentless. And I feel her pain. It's tough.
Exposure. Now, what do we mean by exposure? We're talking about three, and particularly one that I get very passionate about, but I'll let Andrew talk about first, because then I'll get on my soapbox about pre-shifts.
Yeah, I'll leave the pre-shift meetings to you, because I know that you are particularly passionate about that. I love being part when I visit a site that's going, you know, and its service. I love being part of the pre-shift. You know, you can talk about the delivery, but I love being one of the team. The team like it. Again, it's bringing good vibes, and because you are the example, if you're asked a question, then you can share your positivity and energy with it. But I think by exposure, if you're going to be there, really expose yourself to what's going on. Be part of that pre-shift. Find out what's going on. Serve the guests, serve the customers. Be there. You know, talk to them. And again, that encouragement card is when you see someone do something good, tell them, say that was brilliant what you just did, because everyone loves to be told when they're doing a great job. Everyone. And we don't do it enough. You know, it's not that we don't mean to or want to, we just forget. And that is it's a form of coaching and encouragement, and asking them, and maybe having a bit of competition between you and someone. I feel if I haven't shared my enthusiasm for great customer service when I visit a location, visit a team, then I've shortchanged them. I feel bad. And I love talking to customers, ask them how everything is. Are they enjoying the food? Are they enjoying the service? Is it their first time? And this is Martine. It's her first day of training, sort of like introducing the team and just letting them know that we're having a good time. So I think, put yourself out there, don't get too rusty. Don't get too used to that laptop. One day you might need to be surfing again.
Yes, if it all goes wrong. I agree. Get out there and experience the customer experience. Now, again, I get ready for my soapbox. The pre-shift, I'm not sure there's a more powerful tool that we have in our armory to help people get focused on customer experience. Now, don't get me wrong, if the pre-shift talks about the maintenance issues and stock problems, and that's all you talk about, that's not really going to do a huge amount for customer experience. So yes, we've got to be talking about how we can improve the customer experience. The pre-shift is, again, I use the same three words. It provides focus, it provides structure, and it should provide energy. Be as focused on how the person delivering it is delivering it as you are on what they are saying. Now, when you're in one of your stores, in one of your pubs or restaurants, you can see a pre-shift happening. We have this kind of traditional model, and in fact, maybe we haven't helped by this picture that the pre-shift is, the manager or supervisor and 5 or 6 members of the staff. Of course, that can be the case, but with staggered shifts, often it's 1 or 2. Often it is literally 1-to-1. Please don't think a pre-shift is writing a couple of bullet points on a piece of paper, sticking it on the notice board, and assuming that everyone's read it, let alone understand it, let alone believe in it. A pre-shift is an opportunity to ask questions. It absolutely should be a conversation between the person giving it and the team, not some kind of monologue for 4 or 5 minutes, which would be boring for anyone. So get people involved, ask questions, get their ideas. Now, you can't be there, as I say, for every single one. Of course you can't. But when you are, and at least maybe 2 or 3 times a week, try and plan your visits so you can see the pre-shift happening. And if you haven't seen it, ask some questions. So Tommy, talk to me about what the key messages from the pre-shift today. What's the one thing you took away from it? Another idea that I've shared many times before, get your managers to get a little smartphone out again and video a pre-shift happening. Video your best pre-shift and send it in to me. If they send in something that quite frankly is a pile of poo and you said to them, give me your best pre-shift, and they've sent something that you don't think's great,
encourage them.
Yeah, encourage them, of course. But what that should be telling you, it should be maybe ringing some alarm bells, is what they think is really good, in your view, isn't. There's a bit of an alignment gap there. We need to help them. But maybe when you get those videos in, give people feedback, celebrate, encourage the people who are doing it well or better than they were 2-3 weeks ago. At your monthly or quarterly meeting, when you get your managers together, show some of those videos. Have a laugh about them, yes, but maybe score them. Maybe get the people who are doing it well to tell their peers how they are doing it so well. Share the best practice, but don't just do that once and then forget it. It's about consistency. Do it every single month. Maybe a different location provides their shift briefing on video and we all see it. Keep a focus on pre-shifts. They are incredibly powerful. But I promise I won't just talk about pre-shifts. Every moment you are in your locations is a coachable moment, an opportunity to ask questions. Talk more about that in a second.
I will. I want to add, it's I think it's kind of nice, and most of you will smile when you hear this, like, to get your hands dirty. I mean, it's a very effective way of earning the respect of the team. Because many of the people working, they don't know where you've come from. They don't know your experience. They don't know that you've managed busy businesses. And I was in a restaurant once and there was a bit of a drama and one manager didn't show up and I hadn't worked the floor for a while and it was the busiest restaurant I've worked in on the South Bank. And I got up and I worked, and I rolled the sleeves up and I just went at it. And the manager turned around, who hadn't worked with me before, he turned around and goes, "Oh my God, you're quite good. I didn't even know you could do it. I just thought you were one of these like senior people." And you know what? It's great because it's fun. It's a great way of getting a great connection with the team. And once they see that you can do it and you're good at it, they'll listen to you, and they'll want to learn how to be even better. It's a great way of making that connection.
I agree. When I think about the people who influenced me as my multi-site leaders, they didn't tell me, they showed me. not because I was short staffed and they were part of the shift, but they were wanted to be part of it to help me to be better and to see what I was seeing as a unit manager back in the day. It's a great opportunity. I think table touches, going up to guests and doing a bit of a check back is one of the worst things I see in restaurants. When you ask that awful question, is everything okay? And what do we all say? Yeah, it's fine. There's so much better ways to do it. And I'm sure many of you, your experience, you know the best ways. Talking about the specials that they have, do they like the new sauce or the wine that was recommended? Or if it's a retail environment, have we asked the right questions in terms of maybe offering an upsell? Whatever it is in your world, can you help support team members to do it better? I don't like to talk about upselling. I like to talk about uptelling, because it's all about passionately telling our customers about a great product, a great promotion, or just an opportunity to improve their experience. And one of the ways we do it, and we've teased it a couple of times now, is by asking better questions, because better questions lead to better results. What are your thoughts about this one, Andrew?
Well, I like the word curious, and I'm always curious of how things can be done better. You know, if someone did something great, I would ask the question, what made you think to do that? Why have you displayed the bottles like that? And they get, well, because when we did it like that, we doubled the sales. And then you get to say, love that, brilliant. And so I think it's all right to ask provocative questions to extract their enthusiasm or their passion for something, because something that junior managers struggle to do is to show their passion and enthusiasm for something. And it's our job as the multi-site manager to kind of like tell them it's okay to share their enthusiasm for something. So ask kind of pokey questions, be curious. Why do you do what you do? Have you ever thought about doing it like that? Why don't we try it? Or if they say, well, what about this? I say, great, let's do that. Let's see what happens. And allow them to implement their ideas, and don't be a controlling multi-unit manager. Don't go, no, I want you to do it like that. How are they going to learn? Let them make mistakes. You might know that they're going to fail with what it is, but I think it's really good to let them do it and then see and say, well, I did tell you, and have a little bit of a laugh about it, because we don't want it to be, as someone reminded me recently, it's not life and death, it's just lunch and dinner, which I kind of like. It's just a job at the end of the day. So challenge, provoke, ask questions. And only that way will you find out what their motivation is, what their awareness is, what their knowledge is. And ultimately, you'll see how effective they are. So I think we should be very curious and challenged to be even better. Because success, anyone, you can have record sales last week, but sorry, but that's now consigned to the history books. What about this week? What are we doing today to be amazing? I love success, but I also have a hunger to always improve every day.
MMU, we're blessed by having an involvement by Professor Chris Muller, who in the US is one of the leading academics on the multi-serve of this industry, particularly in food and hospitality. And it was he who coined this phrase around the role of the multi-site leader is to ask better questions. And remember, as Andrew said, the reason we're doing it is we want to build their capability of the manager, their independence to come up with better solutions and to sustain those solutions. The other thing for me is, and I have some sympathy for this. Many GMs, unit managers will say, yeah, I'm so busy, I'm so full on. Taking that step back to observe what's going on, to be curious about my customer's experience, because I'm part of it, it's going to be difficult to do. So maybe, and you wouldn't do this all every week, maybe once a quarter, say to a manager, so let's say Andrew's my manager, right, Andrew, for the next 45 minutes, we're going to swap roles. I'm going to step in and I'll be the GM for the next 45 minutes. What I want you to do, Andrew, I want you to observe, I want you to be curious about what's going on in our location today. What do you see that you're really proud of? Maybe it's someone suggesting a new wine that you think goes perfectly well, great pairing with their main dish. Maybe it's someone in a retail environment who's done a great upsell based on the product that someone has ordered, or they helped the guest or the customer to find different solutions, and you really want to feed that back. So who is it? What are they doing? But be specific about what the individual has done so you can feed it back. On the other side of the coin, what have you seen that you're a little bit maybe ashamed of is a bit strong word, but you're disappointed in. We missed an opportunity, or our service standards weren't quite delivered that particular time. What happened? Who was responsible? Who was involved? And what feedback will you give them? And at the end of this 45 minutes, swap back and say, now walk me through what you've seen and how are you going to feed that back? Just giving the manager the space and the permission to think and reflect on what's going on in their business. That can be incredibly powerful to help them to see their customer experience and whether it's living up to the dream, living up to the expectations, as we said at the beginning, that we need to set uncompromising expectations. One other thing I'd just say before I hand over to Andrew on this one is, you ask those questions, as we say, but do it in such a way that you're not telling people, but you're exploring. If it is, for example, that there are lights out in the location, or the back bar hasn't been laid out to planogram as it should be, don't just say there are lights out. That isn't to planogram. Ask them about the ambience. Ask them about potentially what the customer could be missing. Get them to identify, oh, crikey, we haven't got any Jack Daniels on the back bar. We need to fix that. Because you'll know then if they see these gaps, or are they waiting for you to point them out? And again, you know this better than I. If they're waiting for you to point them out, they're always going to be waiting for you to point them out. So yes, provoke, but do so in such a way that you're asking questions rather than telling. The next behavior that we wanted to talk about is promote. Andrew, talk to me about promotion.
I like the middle section of this, promoting moments of truth. Is when you see an opportunity that is maybe second nature to you as a multi-unit manager because you've heaps of experience, but you see something and then you encourage a member of the team or the manager to explore and act on that. Not so long ago, I had the privilege of working with one of the most admired brands in the UK, Loungers, and their moments of truth, they're called random acts of kindness. And they even have a budget for it. You know, managers are encouraged to do moments of truth or random acts of kindness, do really nice things for guests. They might be regular customers or they might be first-time customers. It could be someone that comes in for a coffee and they're wearing a suit, and the manager might say, I haven't seen you before. Are you from around here? And said, no, it's my first time. They say, well, first coffee's on me. Lovely to meet you. I'm George. I'm the manager here. That's it sends out an incredible message. But at the same time, it could be someone that comes into your place every single day for a bacon sandwich, and they turn around and say, George, you are like the best customer. You're amazing. This one's on us. And it's listen, restaurants out there, they sometimes give a glass of Prosecco away or a complimentary dessert. These moments of truth. But I'm also talking about moments of truth in great customer service. Is a moment of truth is opening the door for someone. Now, if you could inspire your team to open the door to every single guest, that's a moment of truth. If you're developing a manager, the ability to reverse dissatisfaction when an experience hasn't gone to plan and that guest is really upset, if you've got the know-how to reverse that so they leave happy and they turn around to you and say, thank you very much for fixing that, that's a real moment of truth. And these are the sort of lessons. So I think promoting those opportunities is invaluable. And recognition when you do see moments of truth, say, I just saw what you did, unbelievable. And it's leaving that positivity and that energy to the point that when you leave, they say, George, when are you coming back to see us? Because they love having you there versus, all right, I've got to go now. I'll be back next week. And they're like, oh, really? So what sort of reputation do you want to have? So promote conversations, moments of truth, and recognition, and find people doing great things. And you will be a very popular multi-unit manager for the right reasons, because you bring good vibes and good lessons.
Andrew, you were talking there about what kind of reputation do you want to have. It made me think back to that very first slide when we talked about creating a customer service culture by design. It doesn't happen by accident. I don't know if everyone's aware of this. Moments of Truth was a concept that came out from a guy called Jan Carlsen from Scandinavian Airlines. And he talked about a moment of truth being any moment when your customer interacts with your brand. And let's be honest, before they even walk through the door, they've probably already had some moments of truth in terms of seeing a social media post or going on the website to book a table or reserving an item to pick up from the store. So already moments of truth are happening. Here's something I think a great multi-unit managers do, and they probably revisit this once every 6 months, maybe once a year. In a team setting, sitting down and saying, what are our moments of truth? And pretty much the moment anybody walks up to the outside of our location, we can't do much about the website. That's for other people to deal with. But for us, what do we do when someone comes up to our front door? What's the first moment of truth? Opening the door, Andrew just spoke about, amazing. Every step when they're in our branch or it could be 4 steps, it could be 17 steps, whatever it is, let's define what that looks like. When we deliver that with excellence, what does it look like? What does it sound like? And perhaps most importantly, what does it feel like for the guest? This is the blueprint. We wouldn't want someone building our beautiful restaurant without a blueprint. We need to build a blueprint of great service, but get your managers as much as possible involved in describing what it should look like when it's done at its best. Because if you get them involved, you get commitment. No involvement, no commitment. Get them involved. And then every week, what could we be doing this week that gets us one step closer to improving the customer service experience that we've all said, we've all defined that we want to see? The other point, and again, many of you will know I'm a huge fan of Disney in terms of movies, but also Disney theme parks and the operational excellence that they deliver, the consistency day in, day out. And again, some of you know I know a gentleman in Disney called Lee Cockrell, former vice president of operations for Disney World. And one of the things he told me about was Disney R, A-R-E, A-R-E, A, appreciation, R, recognition, E is encouragement. Now, we've spoken a bit about encouragement already. His point was every day he would say, who could I show some appreciation to for giving great service? And that's a thank you. That's often it's ad hoc, it's informal, it's a one-to-one thank you, showing you appreciate the effort that they made. It might be because you've received some customer feedback or a TripAdvisor review, and that's prompted it, or you've seen it with your own eyes and you want to share that. The recognition is maybe a little bit more formal. It's when you're going to write an email, you're writing a letter, maybe you're giving a certificate, maybe there's a gift voucher. So there's a little bit more formality to it. And one of the things he said he'd like to do, and again, think about this as a multi-unit manager, is he asked he didn't just write a thank you or a good job letter. He did that, and then he gave it to the general manager and said, I want you to give this to your team member in front of everyone else. So that team member didn't just get great job from their GM, they were getting a great job from their GM's manager's manager. So they were getting feedback from their boss and their boss's boss. Again, who doesn't like, as long as it's genuine, getting feedback? Put your hand up if you're sick and tired of being told what a great job you're doing. Yeah, not seeing too many hands go up. We don't get sick and tired of being told we're doing a great job, so long as it's genuine. So promote recognition, promote that link back always to the great moments of truth, to the great moments of service. Ultimately, we need to do what our last slide around behaviour says is role model. We need to role model great service. Andrew, bring it home.
I'm going to just add one more thing about conversation, because conversation is so useful, but also I think that in the business we're all in, customer service, hospitality, whether you're working in a hotel, a retail department, or a restaurant, the art of conversation should not be underestimated. And I think that we should be encouraging our teams and our managers to have conversations with, to a degree, every single paying customer. In fact, every single person that comes in, it could be the postman. When you make that genuine engagement, because that is the job. I don't know who said we're not in the food business serving people, we're in the people business serving food. It wasn't me, I stole it from someone, but I love it. It's all about conversation. And if you want to build loyalty and trust with your customers and encouraging team members to do exactly the same, then you build a level of hospitality, goodwill, good feeling. And so everything kind of follows from that. And when we start doing things like just steps of service or just the functionality of the job, it becomes a bit dull and a bit boring. And so with everything that you do, every technical task that you do, you should be having engagement and conversation with it. And I think that that's a great thing to role model. They should see you, the multi-unit manager, having those conversations with the team, with the manager, with the customers, because it's word of the day. It's powerful. In terms of role model and being the standard, you multi-unit managers, you set the tone. You know, it's your motivation must be unselfish. You no longer do it for the recognition. You do it because we're now empowered to put the spotlight on someone else. Okay, and you do that. That's being a role model. You know, when you when it's clear that you're being authentic and you're not just saying things for the sake of saying them. You know, you want to reward, you want to recognize someone. If you sometimes you might need to pull them up on something, but it's the way that you do it. You know, the role model would be you praise in public and you reprimand privately. You know, you can take someone outside. You don't, you know, once you drop the baton or you lose your shit with someone, even though you didn't mean to, everyone can see you. There's nowhere to hide. So it's really important that you are a good role model, even though it sounds really, really obvious, and enhance your reputation, because once you have a reputation of being sort of like a great multi-unit manager, someone that people want around, you become irreplaceable, priceless. You know, your value, your stock value goes up when you become that ultimate role model. And I imagine most of you are, because you were promoted to that role or you were recently hired to that. But don't underestimate the importance of your behavior day in, day out, whether you're on the phone. You know, they say you should talk about people as if they were there, and they can hear everything that you're saying. It's a good example to be. That way you're consistent. I'm rambling. Back to you, Lee.
Not a problem. Your passion just bleeds through, Andrew. For me, this sums up everything. People are watching what you're doing and saying, even if you don't think they are. This is about, it's almost like servant leadership, isn't it? In the sense that you're there to serve your team. And one of the things we want to do is make sure we deliver on our promises. So if you've got a one-to-one, don't cancel. If you've got a store visit, don't not turn up. Keep your promises, because if we want our teams to keep the promise alive and keep our customers getting the experience we want them to have, we need to be providing the service to our own team members. Now, in a way of kind of summarizing some of the key practices that we've spoken about today, I'm a great believer in monthly one-to-ones between yourself and your GMs, your unit, your restaurant managers. Now, we've spoken about several of these elements already. At MMU, we like to talk about operations in 4 dimensions. There's the financial results, there's the quality of the operations, there's the employee growth piece, and then there's the customer experience. They can be done in any order. None is necessarily more important than the other, although arguably everything leads to delivering great financial results. But if you get the employees, the customer, and the quality of the operations right, you will deliver great experiences and great results, great sales, and great profits. When it comes to linking it back to customer service, make sure your managers are doing that work that we spoke about at the beginning. They're doing the analysis of the KPIs. They're looking at why the results they've got from TripAdvisor are the way they are. If you use NPS, Net Promoter Score, which some of you will, some of you won't, don't just focus and fixate on the percentage. Focus and fixate on the comments that you get that help you to understand why you're getting the results that you are. At every one-to-one, make sure that they leave with 1 or 2 site-specific focuses around improving the customer experience. And as we said, be specific. What measurement is going to be in place? Where are you now? X. Where do you want to get to? Y. And by when are you going to get there? X to Y, by when. Make sure every goal has that. Make sure every goal has an owner, so there is someone accountable for achieving it. Get people to explore why the results were good, as we said, and then they can share that best practice. But remember, ownership for this needs to transfer from you for leading the meeting for the GM to own it and ultimately come up with the agenda, ultimately to own every aspect of that meeting. Now, the other thing we might do, not always monthly, but maybe every 6 weeks, is have a team meeting. We said before, you could get everyone watching videos of pre-shift meetings and discussing them and voting on them. That's something you can do. Use the brain power of the group. Don't make your meeting 6 hours of you lecturing the team or just cascading information down. There will always be an element of updating, I know, but use this opportunity to get everyone thinking, how can we be better? If you haven't already had conversations about Christmas, get in gear, get on action on that one. It's not far away. It's our busiest time of the year in retail and hospitality and leisure. Let's make sure we are planned. How are we going to make sure that Christmas is going to be better this year than last year? Well, that perhaps wouldn't be hard considering last Christmas, but what are we going to do to make sure it was better than 2019? Get people to come up with ideas together, get people to own it. Maybe give people some topic areas to research. And then once every couple of months at the team meeting, John has to report on how the host role is being done in some fantastic restaurants. Whereas Petra, she has to focus on the importance of how we turn dissatisfaction to delight, dealing with customer complaints. And every couple of months, someone reports back on what they've learned from going on the internet, maybe talking to friends who work for other brands, just as a guest, as a customer themselves when they experience things. Don't put all of the onus on you to fill that entire meeting. Get your team to be involved. On a weekly basis, as we said at the beginning, don't just go, it's Monday morning, where shall I visit this week? Your week should already be mapped out, in large part because of the monthly and the quarterly planning that you do. I think as an outstanding multi-unit manager, you should have a good 90-day quarter plan. And you might be visiting one location 3 times in a week because that GM really needs your support. And another site you're visiting every 5 or 6 weeks. The idea that we have to visit every one of our sites every week or every month is not necessarily the right model. In fact, I would argue more often than not, the one-size-fits-all approach isn't correct. But not just in terms of what you're going to visit or where you're going to visit. You might have a weekly focus for the area. It may be sales focus, average spend, for example. It might be about improving net promoter or other measures that you have. But clearly communicate that, whether you're using voicemail, you're using WhatsApp, systems such as Teams or Microsoft, Yapster, whatever apps or platforms you're using, use them to communicate these key messages. Where you can, try and video yourself. And you might think, I don't want to be on video, but actually capturing 60 seconds of yourself that sends that message out is far more personable than just boring text on an email, because the words won't convey your passion, your energy, your belief in what you're trying to achieve. Only your face will do that. Identify your priorities for the visits. Again, get your managers to say what they want to achieve with you being there, and then execute with passion. And lastly, on a daily basis, make sure when you see some great examples of great customer experience, celebrate them, recognize them. If the person is comfortable, do it publicly. Maybe share amongst your area what you've seen and how they did it, and thank that person for doing so. Give people that daily focus on what we're going to do better today, and love and share and really get excited about the examples of great service. Catch people doing things right is something that Andrew alluded to earlier. I know we sometimes as operators, we're naturally attuned to picking up, that's wrong, that's a mistake, we've missed something. Don't walk past poor performance. We're not suggesting that, but really exaggerate, really celebrate all of the good things that you see. Ultimately, don't just make an appearance, make a difference when you are at your locations. Now, we've only got a few minutes left, but we said we wanted to give you the opportunity for some questions. And I know we've had one already. I'm going to read it out, and Andrew, I'll let you answer it first, and I'll give you my thoughts.
Make it an easy one.
It's good. How important do you feel the role technology has to play in helping multi-unit managers perform better, particularly in terms of capturing and providing data to analyze? What are your thoughts, Andrew?
Really important to maximize technology, get all the data you want, but it will never, ever replace face-to-face conversations, encouragement, good vibes with people. It's about people. We spend so much time with tech, and I love tech, and it's great. I love it. I'm not very good at it, but I love it. So yes, get the data and then go and share it and have a conversation, talk about the possibilities of and how you're going to improve it. You just can't hide behind a computer your phone, or just conversation is king.
I would agree. The other thing I would say is use your tech. So some of the data you're getting from Feed It Back is just one example of a platform around customer experience. Make sure you're not the only person, as I said, looking at that data. Make sure your manager knows how to access it, not just the technical piece of how I go on and log in and get it. But once I've got that information, what does it mean? What do I do with the information? How do I
You've got to share it, haven't you?
Yeah, share it. Again, I feel like a Jim Sullivan quote machine today, but knowledge isn't power. Shared knowledge is power. So make sure people know how to use the tools. The other aspect is the communication piece. So again, maybe 30 seconds of you on video, which you can WhatsApp out to your team. That can get down to the individual frontline team members in a way that a memo or an email probably never will. So I think technology is great. Let's use it, but it will never replace the face-to-face ability to transmit.
I have to say, I love what you just said. I love, if there was a multi-unit manager listening today, if you were to film yourself and share some of your thoughts for the vision for that week in your area and send it to everyone, I think it's brilliant. I really think that's putting yourself out there and being brave. And you have to be brave to win the hearts and minds of people. Yeah. So I think it'd be great. I'd love to see a couple of those.
Thank you for the questions that we've had. I know we've run out of time, and just wanted to kind of bring it back to some degree to what we've discussed today. For me, it kind of begins and ends with the intentionality, the purpose, and the constant reinforcement of the customer is king. Everything we do is in service of giving our customers a better experience. Part of our role as multi-site leaders is to make sure our employees have the best experience, and we're supporting, developing them so that they can give that level of experience. It would be really difficult, and maybe I should ask Andrew if he's got a thought about if there's one here that's more important than others. Maybe it's intentionality, maybe it's energy, but maybe it's just role modeling all of them. That's my cop-out. It's role modeling all of them. What do you think, Andrew?
I'm going to steal a phrase from my friends at Burger and Lobster. Do what you love what you do. Because if you love what you do, you will tick all of these boxes. You will. And just go and share everything that you love about your industry and your brand and your business with the people, because it's contagious. And I know I shouldn't use that word, but that good vibes, energy is contagious. The best operators out there, there's good vibes when you arrive, when you leave, and the best ones, you think, I can't wait to come back and see this team. I can't wait to come back and visit this business. So do what you love what you do.
And wouldn't it be great if your teams were saying about you as a multi-unit manager, I can't wait for him or her to come back because of the value they add?
That would be incredible.
It would be, wouldn't it? I hope that you've kind of seen for us the passion that we've got for developing you for multi-unit managers, for developing great service. Andrew writes some fantastic insight thought pieces on LinkedIn. So if you're not following Andrew on LinkedIn, please do. Of course, I'd love it if you followed MMU as well. But we have so enjoyed putting this session together for you. Thank you for the comments I see coming up there. Thanks, Rob and Chris, for your comments. This will be available shortly on the MMU website, and if it's okay, what I'll do is I'll email everyone who attended today just to let you know it's there, and if you want to download and watch it, you're free, or stream it and watch it, you'll be able to do so. We're also looking to pull together a bit of a guide, some sort of top tips on how the best multi-unit managers make the customer the king, improve customer experience, build it and sustain it. Thank you for your time today, but thank you, Andrew, for being my partner in crime for this session. It's always a pleasure to work with you, sir. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everybody. Take care and stay well. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.